Hi, welcome to Ketobiography. I'm one of your co-hosts, Natalie Shamp. At Ketobiography, Robyn Dobbins and I aspire to share inspiring stories of healing. We illuminate personal journeys and demonstrate the life-changing power of the ketogenic lifestyle, empowering our listeners with wisdom while building a thriving community. Robyn, tell us who our guest is today.
Sure, Natalie. Today, I have invited a close friend of ours to join us and share an inspiring update about her journey. She was a guest on episode 3 of Less of Me Success Stories. Her story, like many others, has had its ups and downs, and she has faced the challenges of emotional eating for most of her life. Recently, she embraced new strategies and is now realizing consistent success through her daily commitment to achieving her goals. I'm excited for her to share her uplifting approach to achieving better health. Jen Mendyka, welcome to Ketobiography.
Hello, thanks for having me on here. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you guys and to tell my story.
We are so glad that you're here. We've been following your story. We work together a lot. We talk to each other a lot, and it's just getting more and more exciting by the day. So I feel like we're going to have this conversation, and then like in 5 months, we're going to have another conversation because there's just so much great stuff going on with you. And I'm just thrilled to have you share that with the world because it's now I'm all talking about me, but when you go into these situations and you talk to people, for me, I can say, well, I have this condition, and if I eat this way, these things come back. But there's so many more people that don't have that. And I think that's harder. I have direct feedback from my own symptoms. But if you don't get those direct feedback things, you got to commit and just trust it.
Yeah.
And so that makes it really different. And I really feel like it's harder than what people say that what I've done has been hard, but I don't think so. I think what people in your situation have done is a lot harder. It's a deeper commitment to yourself. So enough about me. Please share how have things been going, and feel free to talk about some of your background history as well.
So I'll just do a quick recap because people may not have heard my story. I have been the fat kid since I was in 4th grade. That's when I first realized that I was the fat kid. And I've struggled with my weight my whole life. In high school, I was right around 200 pounds. I'm 5'9", 5'10", so I always felt like, yeah, I'm the fat kid, but it's not that bad, right? And then I kept going in life. I have 2 children, so more weight there. And I became a single mom, so more weight there because you eat your feelings. That's what I did. I ate my feelings. And so lots of stress meant lots of food. In 2012, I got married, and my husband is a type 2 diabetic. So I actually started my journey trying to help him. I felt like I needed to understand type 2 diabetes so that I could ensure that I was doing what I needed to do to support him. And I learned a lot about type 2 diabetes. You know, you always hear that it's a chronic, progressive, always going to be there. But I found Jason Fung and learned that diabetes can be reversed with a ketogenic diet. And so we started in our house trying to move to a more ketogenic way of eating because I was trying to help my husband. I wasn't worried about me. I was like, well, I'm just going on the way I've always been, no big deal. And I thought, well, it might benefit me a little bit, but I'm not worried about what it does for me. I was just really trying to help my husband. And really for the first probably 5 or 6 years, I didn't care about my weight. I wasn't even focused on me in any way, shape, or form. I was consistently trying to learn more about diabetes to help my husband. And the more I learned about diabetes, the more I learned about insulin resistance, the more I learned about, metabolic dysfunction. And then the more the light started to shine on me. And I started realizing this picture is me. All these things I'm learning are me. And if I don't change me, I'm going to be the one with type 2 diabetes. And I'm going to be the one trying to manage this chronic condition that shouldn't be chronic. And so I started dabbling with more keto, strict keto for me. But, I went through the phase of let's substitute keto things for everything, and make all the keto desserts so that we don't deprive ourselves of anything. And I suppose that works for some people, but it wasn't working for me. And it makes it, I don't know, frustrating that nothing you're trying is working and you're not really seeing any success. And there was even a period during that time where I was going to the gym like 4 times a week, and I still had maybe 10 pounds of weight loss over a 6-month period, which felt really defeating when you're, 300 plus pounds and you're looking at, oh, look, over 6 months, I lost 10 pounds, which means in like 15 years, I might be at a normal weight. And it's frustrating. And you feel like, what's the point if I'm just going to be this fat? Why put all this effort into it? But I knew there had to be something. And as I was aging, I was starting to feel the effects of being that heavy, more joint pain and just general, I didn't feel good anymore. I just always felt tired. I didn't feel like I had the energy to do anything. I didn't enjoy life. I like to go hiking and go on walks and be outdoors. And it was no fun anymore because I always felt like I couldn't go anywhere off trail. And even most of the trails, if it wasn't a paved trail, I wasn't going off of it because it was hard to walk and everything hurt. And I felt like I didn't have good balance anymore. And I'm too young for that. I'm too young for that. I'm in my 40s and, this was my early 40s going, wow, I feel like crap. What's it going to be like when I'm 60? I don't want to be 60 and feel worse than this, So I decided through I actually started reading Vinnie Tortorich's book, Fitness Confidential. I had seen his documentaries, Fat and Fat 2. And I thought, well, maybe this guy has something to say. And I wasn't really like, this one's going to change my life. It was like, I'm doing a bunch of filing at work and I need something to listen to. And so this might give me some insight and sounds like it could be funny. So I'll go with this one. I've had it as an audiobook. And as I'm listening, it was like, oh, this makes sense. Oh, this really makes sense. This actually sounds easy to do. Like, it's not complicated. It's not a bunch of counting and measuring and weighing, and which is always the frustrating part. It's like, I just want to eat. I don't want to have to do a science experiment and, weigh and measure and log. And I just want to eat. And so the NSNG, no sugars and no grains, was basically you just cut out all sugars, you cut out all grains and starches, get rid of seed oils, eat real food. That's pretty simple. Even I can do that, right? Hey, I can do this. And so I listened to the audiobook late 2021, like over November, December time. And I found the NSNG Facebook group probably right around that time as I was listening to the book. And then I just kind of sat in there and watched. And I didn't really engage with the group, but I listened and I was reading the posts and gathering information, but I wasn't really jumping in. I'm one of those people that if I don't feel like I truly have a grasp of things, I'm hesitant to start it. So I just kept listening. And finally in May of 2022, I decided it was time to stop lurking and start doing. And so I went really strict, actually almost full carnivore at that point. I had watched a bunch of Ken Berry videos and realized that he had the BB&E challenge, the beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. And I thought, all right, well, if I'm going to start doing this, I'm just going to do this. And if I can get results doing this thing, then I'll know that this is something that's going to work for me. So I did from about May 10th until right about the 4th of July. I did pretty strict beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. And I lost 50 pounds. And I was amazed that I could lose 50 pounds doing just eating real food and not, stuff that I didn't like. It was beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. Who doesn't like that, right? So I saw this success and it was like, yes, I can do this. But then because I saw success, I thought, well, I don't have to be as strict, right? I can start, so I started eating some cheese. And then, I would have some in-season fruit, right? You can have in-season fruit. Well, there's no such thing as in-season fruit around here. It's all trucked in. And so it all feels like it's in season. And I started slipping. But it wasn't too bad. I was like, no, I still have some decent success. I'm not back where I was yet, but it kept creeping back and creeping back and creeping back. And my work schedule was crazy, which Robyn has heard the stories repeatedly, how crazy my work schedule got. I went from day shift to night shift to day shift to night shift to some weird in-between shift to day shift to night shift, like over a period of about a year and a half, like 9 times. So my sleep was always disrupted. And so I fell back. And when I started deciding that I needed to do NSNG, I was 380 pounds. And I got down to about 330. And then when I started creeping up, I finally made it back up to, it was 370 pounds again. And I realized that, I knew what to do. I had the right tools, but I wouldn't stick with it. And it was frustrating because it felt like it was just a personal failing. Like I just don't have the willpower. And it's hard to look at yourself and just think, I could do this thing, but I just don't stick with it enough. I'm one of those fat, lazy people that you hear everybody talk about, that's why I'm overweight, is because I'm too lazy to just do the things. And it's hard to look at yourself and think that. It puts you in a pretty bad place. But I knew that I could do this because I'd done it. And I knew that I needed to do it because everything hurt so bad again. And, when I was on the right path, I felt great. I felt so good. I was hiking again. We were biking every day. It was, I was enjoying life, and then I wasn't again. And so I really had to try to figure out what I needed to do to get me back on track. And I was trying this and trying that and trying this. And then Robyn comes along and she says, hey, I've got this small group I'm starting. Would you like to join it? And I went, not really, but I will. So I joined my small group because I thought, well, I'll help Robyn out. Never looking at this for me.
You're a very, very good friend. Yes. Thanks for doing that for me. Go on.
Was like, I'm going to help Robyn out. She wants feedback and I can give her good feedback on how this is working, but small groups, these are so weird. I hate small groups. And it is the best decision I've ever made. In fact, I've joined the next small group. But having the daily accountability really helped. And I had some daily accountability, group chat type things, but you get called out a little on not being there, but everybody knows that as it's just a group chat, we're not actually here to hold each other to the fire, right? But the small group was there to hold each other to the fire. And I needed that. I needed people to be like, hey, what's going on with you today? Because I'm probably typical of most people. When things aren't going well, I hide. You know, nobody wants to hear my crappy day. Nobody wants to hear my struggles. So I'll just be quiet. But when you're quiet and you're holding those into yourself, you're not helping yourself find solutions or just a better perspective, which a lot of times is all I needed was a, hey, that's not the right perspective. Think of it this way. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't have to wallow in that. It's actually not as bad as my head has it. And so I got in a small group, and just the daily interactions are so helpful. You know, knowing that I'm not just accountable to me, that if I fall off the wagon, they're not going to shame me, but they're going to pick me back up and say, all right, knock it off. Let's go. You know better, which is good. I need that. I've always said, man, if I could win the lottery, I would hire somebody to follow me around and slap food out of my mouth, like, don't eat that, which was Robyn's job. I hired her for that in my mind. Don't eat that, or, hey, let's stop doing this stupid thing. I always figured that would be if I won the lottery, I wouldn't tell anybody, but there would be signs. There would be some hulking guy follow me going, Jen, no. So that was the good thing about the group. It was like, oh, I get this support, and I get this encouragement, and I get this, I guess, fellowship. You get the fellowship where everybody's on this journey, and you know that everybody understands at least a piece of your struggles, which when you're doing this on your own, which I really am. I mean, my husband eats mostly what I eat, or sort of what I eat, but he doesn't need to lose weight. He's a pretty small guy, and over the years, he's lost quite a bit of weight. So he's not in this for weight loss, but he is still a type 2 diabetic. He's been one for 30 years. So, he eats a lot of what I eat, but he's not strict. He eats treats and snacks and whatever. And I cannot. I cannot. That was the big thing I learned in the early part of this journey, was that I am a sugar addict. I really am. If I have sugar, man, I am off the rails pretty quick. You'll have something, maybe just a bite of something one day, and you're like, okay, I did all right with that. I can handle that. So you let yourself have another bite of something, a week, 2 weeks down the road. And before you know it, it's a daily thing again. And that's what I kept finding myself. And, people sit there and say, oh, just don't deprive yourself, because that makes it the thing you want. Well, it was the thing I wanted, whether I deprived myself or not. So, I mean, take a little and hurt myself, or just deprive myself of it and be free. But it was harder to do than you think. I mean, I'm not going to have any sugar. I'm not going to have any sugar. And I would do well for a week, sometimes 2 weeks. I think I had a stretch of almost 30 days once, and then I went off the rails again. And a lot of it was stress. My job gets really stressful. I work with young people who don't make good decisions, and it can lead to a lot of stress. And I work really wonky hours. So my sleep isn't always the best. And all of that combines to make for really crappy food choices at times. So my biggest recent breakthrough was Robyn recommended Christine Trimpe's book, Sugar Freed. And I read that, and it was eye-opening for me. It it really helped me put a lot of things in perspective. And one of the things that I didn't think it would do for me was, she asks why, like, why is this my choice? Why am I turning to food? And that's one of those things that you need to figure out, is why are you doing this? And I was like, I don't know why. I don't know why. And so I started thinking, and I'm like, okay, I know that fourth grade is when I had the realization that I was the fat kid. But I didn't start out being the fat kid. I wasn't always the fat kid. I was a normal kid, you know, looking back through my pictures, until fourth grade. So what was the switch there? And I realized that third grade was the year that my grandpa died. And that was my mom's dad. It was her only living parent. And we were really, really close to him. He lived in the same town. I spent probably half my weekends at his house. And that one hit me really hard. Like, that was the year that everything changed. And sorry, you wouldn't think after all these years it would still be emotional, but it is. But I realized that because I was a little kid and I knew my mom was hurting, that I turned to food. And that's where I started that. And that has been my go-to ever since, is instead of feeling the emotions and dealing with the emotions, I just eat them. And but it was a light bulb, you know. I was like, oh, that's what I did. But I don't have to do that anymore. You know, I'm an adult now, mostly, age-wise at least. And I have coping mechanisms that I can use. I have better resources that I can use. I don't have to be stuck in my little kid reactions. And because I definitely believe in the power of prayer, you know, I prayed for God to help me just release that grief and to heal from it, and to not let it drive me and my reactions anymore. And I know that has done so much for me, because right around that time is when I started not having sugar again. And I, you know, okay, I don't have these excuses anymore. I know that I shouldn't be using this, that I'm using food as a crutch and not in ways that it should be used. And all I'm doing is hurting myself. So I started, I think it was early March, no sugar. And, you know, no sugar, no grains, no starches. And today is day 82. So I have managed to get back on track again. And just, man, so many things I've learned along this journey. And especially in this last year, this has been my biggest growth year as far as understanding myself and the things that I need to do.
I'm so incredibly happy for you, proud of you, all of the things. It's just, it's all clicking. I was once told by a counselor that we don't age past the year of our trauma. And I had to be told that by a counselor, and then like process through a bunch of different appointments and talking and all that. And you read a book and you figured that out, and you've processed it with the power of prayer, and look where it's taken you just in this short amount of time. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it really is. This year has been just incredible, and I feel I feel like I understand myself better. You know,
Yeah,
I know where I'm
sure.
coming from.
Yeah, you were looking at life through third grade lenses. And now all of a sudden you've been able to look at them through your 40-ish lenses.
Yes.
You know, there may be some moments, but you know, whatever. You recognize the fact that you were processing things as a child. And
Mhm.
the only person who can pick yourself up and say, hey, I mean, I can slap as much food out of your hands as you allow me to slap out of your hands, but it has to be you who realizes why you're doing the things that you're doing. And that's just been absolutely huge. And I'm glad it's been amazing to just be near you while it's happening, because now you are able to share such insights with everyone else. And I mean, yeah, you come in at things like, oh, I exactly know what you're going through. Let me tell you what I've been. And I think that's also helpful for you to be able to kind of repeat it out loud to other people.
Yeah, the definitely saying things out loud. Like, it's one thing to tell yourself something, but to actually voice it makes it way more real.
Yeah, absolutely. And so from my perspective, since we talked about the group a little bit, you came in and you were very, very quiet. You participated, but there wasn't a lot to say. And then one day you just like, boom, clicked, that something changed. And you're like, I'm telling you my story. And it just all came out. So you said what you said about your grandfather passing. You shared that with us, and I really appreciate that you shared that here today, because that was very vulnerable, and I know that was a challenge for you. But
Yeah.
I mean, such a huge thing. People think, and you said it, that you know, this is easy, and it is easy. It's easy to eat this way. You have this list of things that you can eat, and they're all good things. Who doesn't absolutely love beef, butter, bacon, and eggs? But what's hard is when those feelings bubble up and feeling like, okay, now I have to process these feelings. And that's when everybody starts to kind of back off and shut down. I feel like that's probably what was happening for you. These were bubbling up.
Yeah.
And then let me just go ahead and repress that with a candy bar and deal with it later. So anyway, it's been absolutely amazing. So you had talked about starting to just eat like cheese and fruit. And I want to get into a specific with you, and that is that you work sometimes in a store where your job involves a store. I just want you to explain the process in your head that was validating the choices you were making when you were making those choices, and then how it's different now. Because I know it's still hard, it's still a challenge, but how it's different now. But I want you to go back in time and talk about it, because I think this will resonate with other people quite a bit. So,
yeah. So, like I said, I work with young people. It's a residential program. And so we actually have a student store on our campus. It's a closed campus, so they don't get to just go to Walmart or whatever whenever they want. So the student store is where they buy all their snacks and all their you know, we get hygiene products and all the stuff that they might need, except we have a ton of snacks, which nobody needs. And so I, at least once a week, work in that store because I'm one of the staff sponsors of the group that runs the store. And so you sit in there during your 2-hour shift, and it's just a raft of, you know, chips and candy bars. And I mean, every awful thing you could ever want to eat. I think the healthiest thing we have there is we do have some packets of tuna and some cans of chicken for the protein bros. You know, we get the guys who are like, we want to lift, we need some protein. And so we try to keep real protein in there, but it's mostly just junk food, like really junky junk food. And so when you're working in there, and man, the stress level is high because, like I said, these guys don't make good choices. And just my work life itself is pretty, I don't know, there's a lot of chaos, a lot of chaos. And it makes it very stressful. My husband, in addition to being a type 2 diabetic, also has some dementia, and that makes life stressful. And so you're sitting in this store and you're stressed out and there's all this sugar and the sugar is just screaming at me. You know, it's all I can think about is there's a cosmic brownie sitting right there. And I really want that brownie. And I just really want that candy bar. And oh, look, they have my favorite candy bar in here this time because I don't stock the store, but you know, I work the store. And so I'm like, oh, look, he bought my favorite candy bars. And it's not going to hurt to just have a candy bar today. I'll just have one today and it'll be okay. And that was my weekly thought process. Like I would sit there and I would tell myself, I'm not doing anything today. I'm not buying a candy bar when I go in there today. I'm not even going to have a brownie. I'm not having any of it. And by the time I walked out of the store, I would have 2 candy bars, 3 candy bars, a handful of brownies. You know, I mean, it was bad. It was bad. At one point, I told my supervisor that they needed to find somebody else to work in the store because I could not be in there. That I said, I feel like an alcoholic working as a bartender. I can't do this. I can't be around this all the time. It's torturing me. And that was, you know, that was really how I felt. And I would reach out to my friends, you know, group text and stuff. Hey, I'm in the store tonight. It's a struggle. Help me through. Help me through. But it was, you know, white knuckling it every time I was in there to not eat something I shouldn't eat. And it was hard. And every time I gave in and ate something, I knew I'd failed. You know, so then you have that self-recrimination of, yep, I'm a failure. And once I realized that I was using food as a crutch, that it went back to my childhood and that's what I was doing, I was able to not just, you know, pray about healing from that, but I started telling myself, you know, food is not comfort. Food is not a substitute for my emotions. You know, I don't use food to comfort myself. Food is nutrition. And none of the stuff in here is nutritious. It's not food. And if it's not food, why am I eating it? So, and that I mean, it helps. It helps me so much to sit there anytime I'm like, oh, I want that. And I'm like, nope. Why do I want that? Why am I wanting that thing? What is going on? I'm stressed. Okay, well, that's not going to help my stress. Food is not going to help my stress. What's going to help my stress? Well, just getting through it is going to help my stress. Or, you know, because in the student store, it's not like I could be like, well, I'm going to go take a walk. Well, I'm stuck in the store, right? Or I'm going to go lift some weights or something. I'm stuck in the store, but I can tell myself, I'm in the store for an hour. I can handle an hour of stress. Like, it's not the end of the world. You don't need to eat the candy bar. The candy bar is just going to make you feel like crap. And so I have to sit there and tell myself those things. But it's gotten easier. It's gotten a lot easier. Lately, I can be in the store and it's like, oh, look, they have brownies. And I'm like, nope, I don't need a brownie and I'm good. But I've had to make that progress. And I really, for a while, I did have to, like, the mantra had to be, it was repeated a lot. This is not good stuff. You know, food is not comfort. Food is not emotional support. Food is not there for my pleasure. It's there to fuel my body. And that's what I need to do.
That is exactly right, Jen. And it also, the more that you stay away from these kind of foods, your brain has a calmer reaction to, and I'm sure that you can testify to this, is that the more that you stay away from these foods that bring you anxiety, the less anxiety you have towards wanting that food. You might still have a craving. Like, I get cravings all the time and be like, oh, I remember what that brownie tastes like. Oh yeah. But it's a fleeting moment because my brain is mostly calm when it comes to the whole, like, your whole body tenses up because you're like, I really want that, like a child, right? And then you realize that you're like, oh, wait a minute, my brain is like, no, it's no big deal. Just, it doesn't make me feel good. I swell up, all the things. So the longer we stay away, again, it's never going to be easy, right? But the easier, I say that with, air quotes, it gets to just stay away from it. Our brain has a different reaction to what we see, right? What I would like to say to you, I think I cut you off, but what I want to say really quick is that I was also in the small group with you. I've been in some groups with you, of course, in larger groups. So we didn't know each other, but we did get to know each other in the small group. And what I will say, especially to our audience, because if you don't know Jen, the pep in her tone of voice, the smile on her face is proof that this is giving her life again. And so it's so joyous to see, because you're my friend and I really am, it just makes my heart swell to see the big smile on your face and you're like, I got this now. Look at how I'm doing this. And you're so proud, and we're so proud of you. So I just wanted to say that. If you had something to say, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
But I do have some other questions. So,
okay.
So one of the things I would ask, I'm not really sure what order to put this in because I have a couple of things. One of the things I'll go back to is you talked about your husband, and we don't have to talk about this, as much as you want. But we talk about how many of us, like myself, I came to this way of eating for weight loss, right? And so I think sometimes people come to this thinking, oh, this is just a weight loss method. It's not for me, when in reality, there's so much more to it than weight loss. Weight loss is just that we talk about a lot. That is just a bonus, a side effect. But we also have learned that folks with eating disorders in the other way who need to put on weight can also benefit from this way of eating, right? And so that brings me to your husband with his struggles with type 2 diabetes. Have you guys worked out a way to keep him, within range? I know it's a little difficult we're not allowed to make other people's decisions what they put in their mouth, right? But which I think is very unfair. I really think that they should listen more. But I wondered, have you seen a difference in his health, being that you try to keep him on track as much as you can?
Yeah. He went from having regular blood glucose numbers in the 200s, like all day, to he's right around 100 now on a regular basis. So, and he has a CGM. We did get a CGM, which helps because, you can see what you're doing. You can see what the food is doing. And that has helped immensely. But yeah, he used to have to take, so much insulin. And he hasn't taken any insulin for, I don't know, 6-8 months now.
That makes me so happy. That is that's right there. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that update. Okay. And then, so I also would like you to tell us and the people listening, what is a tool that you fall back on when you start to struggle, now that you've been able to kind of where you've gotten to the point where your mind is working with you, right? Your mind isn't working against you, it's working with you now. So what tool do you fall back on, or are there several?
A lot of it's situational. It depends on, I always ask myself, why? Why am I having this craving, or why am I having this struggle, or why does this sound so good? What's going on? Usually it's pretty easy to figure out, your life, so you know what's going on, and what the trigger is. If it's just one of those where I'm stressed out and I'm in, really my big challenge right now is the student store. It always will be, because You know, you spend an hour around every candy known to man, and if you're having a bad day and your go-to has always been food, well, hey, look, it's right here, and nobody's going to say anything because they're all eating it too. And so if I'm struggling in the student store and I'm telling myself all the things, you know, food is not comfort, food is not this, why are you having this craving? I know you're just stressed. I know that, but I don't have a outlet for that, you know. I'll turn to my group and be like, hey, I'm in the store and it's a bad night. Help me through. Help me through. And, you know, like I said, it's none of those people would say anything negative to me if I did eat a candy bar. They would be like, oh, you know, you shouldn't have, but let's fix it from here. Let's fix it from here. They wouldn't be like, oh, you're such a loser. You know, why did you do that? They would not be that way. But for me, that peer pressure of having to admit to them that I failed, that's a big motivator. Like I know that they would love me through it and pick me back up and brush me off and help me on my way. But man, I don't want to have to tell them that I failed. So it's easier just not to fail.
I totally agree with you. And the way the group helped me was, you know, I just needed that little bit of, you know, maybe 15 more pounds or so, you know, it was, and to feel better in certain ways. And we had challenges, and I was like, oh my God, if I don't log this today, I'm such a loser, you know? And so that's how I felt with the group too. It does provide this weird accountability that you don't expect, I feel like. So that's a great, I'm glad that we both got something out of it. In fact, everybody in the group got something a little bit different out of the process, you know, unexpectedly. I wasn't expecting to get anything out of it, to be honest. I'm like, I know everything at this point. I don't need anything. Just kidding. I did. I learned a lot of things. And I also learned about how other, you know, certain things that don't bother me really affect other people. And that's important to keep in mind. You know, when you're trying to talk to someone about this information, sometimes you're coming at it from your standpoint, but really what's their standpoint. So another question I have for you is that we love Christine Trimpe. We love her so much. She's actually going to be released on one of our episodes here. We had
She is episode number 2 of Keto.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
It's already released.
Yeah, she's amazing. So what I wanted to ask you about her book is what I know for me, what little tidbits stood out. So I'm curious what stood out for you in her book that, you know, made you feel like it spoke to you.
Well, I've been really a strong person of faith for quite a few years. And yeah, it's one of those things where you know that the Lord is there for you, and you know that you can lean on the Lord, and you know that He wants good things for you. But it's easy to tell yourself that He's not worried about your problem. You know, like, oh my God, all this stuff in the world going on. And I know He cares for me, but He's got bigger fish to fry than whether Jen's fat or not, you know, whether Jen feels good about herself or not. But like, there's wars and famines and people really suffering, and I'm okay. Like, you know, I don't want to bother Him with my problems, which is such a silly thing to think. But we do because we're silly creatures, you know. And just reading through her book and reading the scriptures and going, yeah, I know it says that. And I know that He means it. And I know that He's there for me. And just reminding yourself that God does care about what you're going through, but He's a gentleman and He's not going to force anything on you. So like, if you don't ask Him for help, He's not going to come slap the food out of your mouth. But if you just remind yourself that He's there and that He cares and that He's willing to help you if you just reach out, that was a nice reminder.
And a quote that I heard this weekend was, you know, it's not on my time, it's on God's time. It's on the universe's time. It's on your time. So just because I want this for you, for example, doesn't mean you want it for you right now. And it'll happen when it is your time for it to happen. And I feel like that's like so perfect, because we get frustrated with our family and our friends and the people around us that they're just not doing it right. Like, why are you eating so much sugar? Why are you know what I mean? And so because it's not for you, it's not your time. It's on the person's time. So it will happen. It will happen. One of the things, the last thing I want to say to you, well, not the last, but one of the last things before I will allow Robyn to step in and chat, is that, you know, we all know, well, we don't. I didn't know this. I felt like growing old it's a little bit of a curse, right? Like you feel like you're fading away growing old. And when we don't feel good, it really is telling us that this is true. We're telling ourselves that growing old is, it's about you're coming to the end of your life, right? And so growing old is a privilege, I've learned. And the better we feel, the more of a privilege it feels. Mm-hmm. But getting strong and having the tools in your body to help you grow old gracefully, if you will, is a choice. And I'm very proud of you to see that you've made the choice to, to grow old gracefully. And it truly is a privilege. We don't know from one day to 1 hour to the next. It could be it. And as long as we have put the effort in ourselves, and given our body the best opportunity it can to take care of our minds and our physical being, then we've lived a really good life. And so I'm so happy to see you in that space. It just again makes my heart swell, girl. Makes my heart swell.
So do I get a turn now? Is that okay? Okay. I wanted to go back to your to that book that Christine wrote, Sugar Freed. Is that, I mean, when I read it, all I was reading was you. For years, I know I've said, value yourself, but I knew that when you read that book, that it would totally resonate with you. So I could have said whatever. It never would have come out until you saw it in the way that she wrote it. So very thankful for her for putting her journey out there as well and writing it in such a clear way. Because it's helping a lot of people. And you kind of took that step and you like laid it all at his feet. You're like, I'm putting this out here. And then the stuff that you maybe weren't getting direct help from it within prayer, you were able to go to us in the group. And I think it all just kind of was a perfect storm of great things that happened in your world for your accountability. I mean, that's all you're describing is accountability here. But you did mention, and Natalie kind of asked this question, but you mentioned it when you were talking, is that, you had to formulate new coping mechanisms. Okay, so you're looking at sweets as your coping mechanism. So outside of the school store, other places, have you been able to use and formulate new coping mechanisms as you deal with your regular everyday stressors?
Yeah, a lot of it is just allowing myself to feel the things. When you turn to food, it's to mask the feelings. And I just allow myself to feel the things. Like, I have to feel this, I have to work through it. And then once I work through it, I'm good. And I mean, because there's always going to be stress. We always think, man, if I could just get through this stress, then I'll be okay. Well, no, there's the next stress. We live in a world that it's a stressful world. It just really is. And I'm a small town person. So even a small town person, I mean, you guys live in, I don't know I know where Robyn lives. I don't know where Natalie lives, but a lot of people live in cities where it's really stressful. God, I hate cities. They're awful. Way too many people for me, way too many people. But so there's always something, the car broke down, the washing machine is on the fritz. There's always something that's going to be stressing you. And the thing is, you have to learn to just be like, okay, what can I do? What is out of my control? If it's out of my control, I have to just let it be out of my control. And that's a hard one. It's a hard one to not try to micromanage your world, because that, that's human nature, is to try to be in control of our things, keep them under control. And we can't. We really can't. And I think her book helped me reconnect with that part of myself that I had let slide, was, that there are many things that are out of my control, and I just have to trust that the Lord's got it and that it's going to be okay. And I might not like it, but it's going to be okay. And not worry about things I can't change. And that's a hard thing to let go of, because, worry almost becomes its own drug, where you feed off of that. You're trying to control things, they're not under control, and you just have to, it feeds this ugly, ugly cycle. And you can't have peace. And peace is so important. Peace is so important. I've remembered that peace is so important through this journey, that letting yourself worry and just be in that constant state of anxiety and stress, that right there is toxic to you. I mean, stress is toxic. It's every bit of a poison as sugar is. And so you have to learn how to let things go, because not every problem is your problem. Even if it's in your life, it's not your problem. Sometimes it's God's problem, and you just have to let him deal with it and stay out of his way.
I told you, Natalie, she's gotten like incredibly insightful, and we can't stop her from all of this. It just keeps flowing out. That's exactly it. Like, if you're eating stuff that is full of sugar, at a cellular level, you're creating an amount of stress that the only way you can control it is to stop eating it. So now that you've stopped eating it, 82 days. And by the time this comes out, I'm hoping that we're celebrating well over 100 days by the time. So since you're now listening and we've recorded this early, please go check out Jen on her socials and see where she is on her day count. So that's future accountability. I just threw right at you right now, Jen. So
Gonna have to start posting that on my socials. I haven't been doing that.
Well, we'll tell you when this comes out, so you can just plop it in there if you don't want to. But it's just that, you've taken the step, 82 days sugar free, and at that cellular level, that stress has calmed, and now all of a sudden you are seeing all of these big picture things that you just weren't allowing yourself to see before, because it was just so closed in with all the other stuff banging around in your system. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you are suddenly insightful. It's because you've allowed your brain to breathe. I'm not saying you weren't insightful before, but these things that you're saying are just like amazing. And you weren't saying them before, and now you feel comfortable doing so. And I love that also. So that's all just been an amazing change to witness. And like you said, the fellowship, we're all in this fellowship, and we get to witness each other through this process, and it's been amazing. So I have another question, and I see that Natalie also has another question. I want to know what you're thinking about future. Like, sometimes we talk about goals, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a goal. But how are you seeing your future laying out before you now that you are where?
Well, I guess I see that I need to remain sugar-free. Like, I've come to that realization that the indulgences, or the life into living, or the whatever you want to call it, the cheat day, whatever, cheat meal, which you only cheat yourself, don't cheat. I can't do that. I can't do that, because I've learned within myself that it is the slippery slope that I can't manage. And if you can manage those things, good for you. I can't manage those things, and that's a realization I had to come to for me. And so, and I know it's hard for people to understand, that my intention is to never have a piece of birthday cake, never have a whatever again. You know, my parents just had their 50th anniversary last weekend, and there were desserts galore on that table and really good food. It was all homemade stuff. And I mean, even just the food, and I had the meat at the table, and that was it, because I know everything else is a step in the wrong direction for me. And once I step in the wrong direction, my course veers that way, and I can't get it back on track for months or years. So for me, that is the big thing. I have to stay very strict for me. I've started exercise, which is a big thing that I want to feel strong again. And for too long, I felt not strong, and I'm tired of that. You know, it's another part of just wanting to feel good. I want to feel good. I want to feel strong. I want to feel like I can go take a walk if I want to. I want to feel like, you know, we live pretty close to the Black Hills. I want to go hiking in the Black Hills. You know, I just want to do some stuff that makes me feel good. So I want to be strong again. So I've started exercising, and once again, I have to have accountability. You would think it would be like, I can just do this for me, but I have to have accountability. So I have to do a check-in with my workout so that I make sure I do my workout. But that's part of my journey. And it would be easy to be ashamed of my inability to just work out, but it's just me. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I have that mental block. And I'm certain at some point in time, it'll just be like, that one's gone too. That block is gone too, just like these other blocks. You just have to let yourself work through the process and not beat yourself up along the way. I mean, yeah, tell yourself some real hard truths, but you don't have to beat yourself up as you go. And then, I don't know where I want to be. I don't know where this journey is going to lead me. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not knowing where it's going to end or where it's going to go or what it's going to turn into. I just hope for me that I feel really, really great at the end of it, and that maybe my story has touched someone along the way and helped them feel great on their journey too. So I don't know. I really don't know. I still have in my mind sometime I'm going to do a 5K, but I don't, maybe 10 years. I was really ambitious last time, and it was like, oh yeah, this is so not happening. So
well, I don't want you to throw a goal in front of yourself that then you'll beat yourself up if you don't get it. So sometimes goal setting is not the right thing. I think you making a daily choice and a daily declaration, it's my whatever day sugar free, that's a great goal for right now. And the other things will open themselves up to when the time is right. So you have the right head. The story about you at the anniversary party and being there, all of that was right in front of you, and able to not give yourself a reason.
Yeah.
Everybody can give themselves a reason, but you didn't give yourself a reason. And also, you jumped through that hurdle with your family present.
Yeah.
That's all.
It was actually it was an interesting weekend. So number one, I had not a single dessert, and nobody ever said, well, why didn't you have cake? Nobody asked. Nobody cared. Nobody cared what I was eating. They were too busy doing their own thing. But the night before, when we were setting up, so I have two brothers. It's the three of us. And we were setting up, and the three of us were standing there chatting. And I'm not really sure how the conversation started, but we were talking about, I know how it was. I asked my brother what we were having, because I was like, hey, what's the food going to be tomorrow? Because I wanted to be able to prepare if it was all going to be stuff that I wasn't willing to eat. And he's like, oh yeah, we just smoked some meats, and then we're going to have all the fixings. And I went, okay, cool. I said, good. I just wanted to make sure it was something I could have, so I didn't have to eat before I got here. And he's like, oh yeah. And he was like, oh no, we were talking today, and he's talking about how they don't eat sugar in their house anymore. They eat a sugar substitute. They use monk fruit now, or whatever, I think is what he said. But they also have, he's like, but we don't have near as much desserts as we used to have. And he's like, and I don't even really do those anymore, because even with the monk fruit, I think it's just too sweet and da 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 da. And I guess if in your own family, if you're looking at the people who also just are sugar addicts too, and they're all saying, yeah, I think the sugar's a bad thing. It's like, oh my gosh, we've all reached this age where we realize what we're eating is doing damage to us and we need to fix things. And, neither of my brothers has gone to the extreme of cutting things out that I have. But, they're on their own journeys and they've both gotten healthier too. And so it's kind of neat to watch how all of us have kind of come into this. My brother had a whole conversation about how he loves pizza, but he can't even eat it anymore because it just makes him feel like crap. And my daughter was standing there for most of this conversation and hoping she heard her uncles when she won't hear me. So, but it's interesting just to see like who is also picking up on the things that I'm learning in their own ways.
Yeah, it's out there a lot more now, and
Yeah.
Look how much easier it's going to be for all of you because now you're all kind of doing it. Yeah, you're in different places in your journey. That happens, but you're still going to be able to be supportive of one another. So that for a long time you felt like you were on an island by yourself. So it's nice to know that you have a little bit more support, especially within your family.
Yeah.
And before I turn it over to Natalie, there is something that you have said to us within our group that I think is huge, and I would like you to share it. It's your 90-10.
My 90-10. Yeah.
Yes.
Somewhere along the way, I came to the realization that 90% effort actually yields 0% results. If you're only going 90% in, you're failing. You really are. You're failing. And that was my personal, like, I was doing 90%, I was 6 out of 7 days, I was doing great. And that 7th day, I was letting myself have a candy bar. And that was derailing all of my success. I was, like I said, I was back up to 370 pounds and was not budging. And you sit there and say, I'm doing all the right things, except I knew I wasn't. And yeah, 90% effort, 0% results. You're not going to get the results you want if you're not putting in the full effort.
Natalie, before I turn it over to you, you've mentioned what you got back up to. Do you have where you are now that you want to say? You don't have to say it if you don't want to.
My weigh-in for this week was at 349.
That's just absolutely incredible.
So I've made it back down. I've backed down 22 pounds because I am tracking, but yeah, I'm back down 22 pounds. So, I have to say, every time you fall off the wagon, you have to be on the wagon longer to get the results that you were getting to begin with. Because, man, that first time I was not even 60 full days, and I was, I had lost 50 pounds. It was amazing. And this time I'm on day 82 and I'm down, 22 pounds. So it gets harder if your body does just stick with it. It's so much easier to just stick with it.
No, that's a hard lesson to learn. Every time you go off and you come back on, it's that much harder. And I've heard that from many, many people. I've experienced it myself. It's just, that's the journey, right? And you got to learn from all of these things as you go along. So yeah, you're going to back off and then be like, oh my gosh, I know what I'm doing. And it's just not working, but that's where the patience has to come in. And it's just so much easier not to fall off in the first place. So yeah, I'm glad you're at that point. Yeah. All right, go ahead, Natalie.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, it is easier to stay on because then you don't have to fight the sugar demons all over again, right? But my question is, I did want to ask you about your weight loss, but thank you for asking that, Robyn. But besides weight loss, because we talked about how that's just a bonus of all of the things that you should feel. Have you noticed any other changes in the last 82 days from when you started? What are some of the other things besides the glorious weight loss?
So I have skin issues that I'm convinced are candida based, but there's some dispute whether it's psoriasis or candida. But I know that when I eat sugar, it's it gets ugly. It gets ugly. My forehead breaks out and like bleeds. Like it'll break out to the point of bleeding. My finger does the same thing. And neither of those are happening anymore. That's nice not having, because man, when my finger goes, it hurts so bad. And it's, your hands, I work with my hands. And so it's hard to have that going on. So that's cleared up. That helps. I just, like, my joints don't hurt like they did. I still have some joint stuff. And I think part of it might be some perimenopause stuff, some, going into menopause, but man, it's not like it was. It got to where I couldn't sleep at night because my hips would hurt while I was sleeping. And so I just had to shift all the time. That's not been a problem recently. So that's nice. Not having that extra intrusion into sleep, because sleep's hard enough on its own. I feel more energy. I feel more positive. My work life is really, I know I've said this, it's stressful, but and without going into a whole 30-minute diatribe about how insane my work life is right now, just understand it is insanely stressful right now. Like daily wondering how long I have a job type stress. But I'm okay. And I know 6 months ago, I would have just been like, what am I going to do? What's going to happen? And I check in a few times a day going, okay, what's the newest crazy? But I'm just rolling with it. And that's a nice feeling that I'm not living in my stress. And you have to figure out how not to live in your stress. You have to let it roll. And so that's become a lot easier. And man, that makes life so much better when you can just roll with that. And I don't know, I feel good. That's got to be the biggest thing, is I just feel good. I feel like I don't feel as strong as I want to be yet, but I feel good. I don't feel like every day's a struggle. I can go shopping with my husband and not feel like I've taken too long in the store. I just feel good about myself. I feel good in myself. And that's nice. It's nice when you feel good.
That makes my heart so happy. So, Natalie, did you have another question?
No, I just was excited to hear about, some of the other changes besides, some weight loss. But I know that all of our bodies go through some of these things that maybe we weren't considering when we started this journey, right? Like I didn't realize how bloated I was all the time, and how much I didn't realize how bad my joints hurt. I mean, I knew they hurt, but I didn't realize how bad they hurt until they stopped hurting. So I think that's always an interesting, thing to ask folks, because, and then for me, not like Robyn, but for myself, who I'm a very high energy, I have a high energy brain. I'm ready to go at all times. Like I can wake up out of bed, let's go, let's have this deep conversation. Like I don't have my brain isn't downtime. But with that being said, I noticed such a huge reaction to my brain. Is I still have a high energy brain, but I don't get super panicked like you were talking about. Oh my God, what if this doesn't work out? Oh my God, what's my plan B, C, D, E, and F, and like just freaking out over things. Like you just know that it's going to work out. And yes, should you be, thinking about maybe a plan B, but we don't need to go on this hamster wheel of complete chaos in our brain to figure it out. Right.
Exactly.
So I love that. And we share that, I feel like. So you're not as high energy brain as I am. Like mine never stops, but I love that you're able to deal with some of the stresses here in life that are just, and they're hard ones. They're a job that pays your bills. You could probably ask anyone, that's the worst one. It's very stressful. So kudos to you, and it will work out. Again, it's not on our time, right? But it's
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. It'll work out, and it'll be what it is, and it'll be fine.
So at the end of our show, we always ask each of our guests a question. But before Robyn asks you that question, is there somewhere that people can go to follow you, or if maybe they want to contact you and ask you questions?
I mostly live on X. And I do have an Instagram and a Facebook, but I don't visit them as often. I usually mostly Facebook and Instagram are just to share reels with my friends. We send the funny ones back and forth. That's what we do. But if you actually want to engage with me, X would be the place to be. That's where I do most of my engagement.
All right, Jen. Well, before I get into the last question, I just really want to thank you for joining us and sharing. And like I said many times, I'm so just excited and proud, and just it's been wonderful to be on this journey with you. And we went a little long, so thank you for giving us a little bit of extra time. But you're full of insight. What can we do? You've got a lot to share, and I can't wait to hear more of it as it evolves. So here we go. Here's our last question. What key insight, so this should be good for you, what key insight would you want to share that would help others write their keto biography?
Well, I think part of it would be the 90 nothing rule there. 90% effort's going to get you 0 results that you want. You have to be all in. You have to make what you're doing be the important thing. Value yourself. You're worth it. You are worth it. I mean, I know all of us know that deep down, but man, that was a hard one for me to finally come to the realization that I'm worth doing this for. It's not that I need to do it for anybody else. I need to do it for me. And then just listen to your body. We get a lot of noise going around in our heads, and a lot of noise going around us, and people telling us what we should and shouldn't do, and this and that, and then Listen to your body. Your body's telling you what it needs, and it's telling you what's not working. And you need to listen, because your body's telling you, not your mind, because your mind's going to lie to you, but your body. When you start eating the foods that are fueling it the way it needs to be fueled, it tells you. The pain starts going away. The joints don't hurt as bad. Everything starts working the way it should. Your gut feels good. Your body will tell you. And so if somebody says, hey, you have to have XYZ as part of your process, and it does not work for you, then it doesn't work for you. Don't force things upon your body just because it's the popular or the whatever. Do what's working for you, but make sure that it's working for you. Don't just lie to yourself and tell you this is what's working for me. Like, listen to your actual body. And if it's working for you, you'll feel better and you'll feel good, and life will be moving in the right direction. But if you're eating something that people are telling you is good for you and it's not good for you, then it's not good for you.
Yeah, I like that. And you've, throughout this conversation, thrown out several different tactics that people can try. You have a streak going for your no sugar. You've been in an accountability group. You've got a mantra. You've turned to prayer. These are all things. They work for you, and they work wonderfully for you. And they may not work for everybody else, but that thing, find the thing, like you just said, that's going to work for you. You don't have to do it exactly the way I do it, or the way you do it, or the way Natalie does it, but there's a way, and everybody has a way. You just got to find it. So I love it. See, super insightful. Can't stop it. It's a train that's rolling down the track now, and you just got to go with it. And just again, I appreciate you joining us so much. So on behalf of Natalie, Jen, and myself, thank you for hearing our keto biography.